Well, I think it's totally ridiculous. I mean, this is all about one word. It's about Michigan. They're deadly afraid that 100,000 people in Michigan will sit out the election. But let's just talk about what recently happened in the last day. The Israelis assaulted a hospital. They killed 140 Hamas killers inside the hospital. Now the Biden administration and Senator Schumer are emboldening Hamas and by extension Iran with a UN resolution that actually has the force of international law if it passes the Security Council. One last thing, Schumer and Biden certainly aren't reading the American public, because even Harvard has put out a poll saying that 81% of the American people support Israel's efforts to stamp out Hamas. So this is all about Michigan. It is disgusting. And I'll just say Joe Lieberman said it in the Wall Street Journal. These people have crossed a red line that America has never gotten close to in the history of Israel.
No, I mean, there's been some issues before, but not during such a conflict where we have American hostages, John. I'd like you to react to that, but also there's this report that, you know, everyone sort of doesn't want to get lost in all of this, and this is the fact that there's confirmation U.S. troops are in Taiwan. If they try to put it under the guise of training, that's one thing. But we know Xi Jinping, now that this is public, with all the internal issues he's having, his economy. I mean, is this going to trigger something more perilous?
Yeah, it's hard to know. China is certainly wanting to ratchet up tensions. The presence of U.S. troops in Taiwan does gum up the works for President Xi. The Chinese game for Taiwan isn't about an invasion. They want to demonstrate to the world, or have the world believe, that they have the capability of doing this. So that the idea is that if they escalate their war of words, it shapes public opinion in Taiwan, the United States, Japan, the Philippines, and other countries to make policy more accommodative to Beijing, so perhaps they can achieve their goals incrementally through diplomacy, with military capability or perception of that being the stick that drives it by threatening, credibly threatening war. The backdrop to this is China's internal problems. They have a huge debt problem led by their real estate market. Yep. And there's problems, there's indications there's problems and instability within the upper reaches of the Chinese Communist Party. So President Xi has his task cut out for him. The situation is complex, but the presence of U.S. troops in Taiwan is really going to give the world pause and cause many countries to rethink this, as there is a deterrent value of American troops being there.
Well, obviously, too, there's an economic side. There's, you know, the chips that are manufactured in Taiwan, huge implications on many, many levels, just like what we see in the Red Sea with the Houthis attacks and the economic pain it can cause on global issues. Secretary Wilkie, can you please address the largest missile attack in Kyiv in weeks that was launched by Russia overnight? If you saw, it was trending everywhere. This is some of the video into us. Putin obviously not backing down. There's reports he may have even a bigger army. Now, where does this go from here? Because still no one's talking about off-ramps or diplomacy, just more funding.
Right. And we're the Ukrainians are in a perilous situation. The Russians are responding to attacks that the Ukrainians have made inside Russia. They're actually going deeper into Russia. The problem is that the Ukrainians' supply of ammunition, precision-guided munitions, particularly the promises from the Europeans, have dried up. That is the greatest problem, and that is the one that the Europeans themselves have not addressed. Even our Canadian friends are pulling back on support for Ukraine. The one thing I would say, in order to make the West stand up and really realize what's going on, I think Zelensky has to do a little more in terms of mobilizing his population. He has not gone that extra step to bring the entire weight of the Ukrainian population up against the Russian army. So they need more weapons, but they also need to refill their ranks with the folks who have not been serving since the Russians attacked.